Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Back again. Another culture content. Before I introduce the topic, here is a quote just for this episode. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? Friedrich Nietzsche. The topic is 5 ways to build a strong and cohesive company culture. I picked that quote because implicit in these 5 ways is a word that, or maybe an aggregate of these 5 ways I'll share today would be a word that you may have heard but haven't conceptualized in a practical sense, and that word is innovation, the action or process of innovating. Some synonyms are alteration, revolution, upheaval, transformation, metamorphosis, reorganization, restructuring, recasting, remodeling. Innovation means bringing new things into existence, usually to solve a problem. There's I think, Karl Popper book, Life is Problem Solving. Innovation, that quote, I picked that quote. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? On an individual level, that's hard. It's hard enough to do that. And in some sense, we can't do it on our own. That's where having friends helps, having mentors, having enemies, having teammates, having being a part of a society, we are a social organism. Our identity has a relationship with other people. Others help us orient ourselves and restructure and reimagine and react and relate and reintegrate ourselves into society in a constructive personal identity self. Well, the same thing happens with a company and its culture and its utility. And this goes to my first point of 5 ways to build a strong company culture. For innovation to happen, like innovation is that reimagining, that refiguring, that restructuring. It's an inevitability that it must happen as the world continues to change. Change is a constant, and so the first way to build a strong, cohesive company culture, I think, can be overlooked oftentimes, and that's the value of the product or service. How valuable is the product or service? Because the purpose of the actual business, its existence, will have a relationship with the actual value that is provided to customers, what they get. I mean, that's inherent in the relationship of capital. Customers invest capital, their capital, part of their identity, their potential, their that affects their current state and impacts their potential state. They invest that for product products, services that to them must be and should be and has to be more valuable than the capital, than their time, improve their current state and add value to the future state. So the value of the product or service, you want to build a strong and cohesive culture, the authenticity of the product, the the truth, the truth bundled up in that product that customers willingly invest in is paramount. And that this has to do, this relates to the innovation conversation because Innovation means bringing new things into existence, usually to solve a problem. There will always be problems, there always be new problems as the world changes, as and we've got to be able to keep up. We've got to, on an individual level, continue to learn and by unlearning and relearning and retooling and developing our skills and sharpening our habits and broadening our knowledge and capacity to execute with others and through ourselves. And the organization has to do that as well on a massive scale. And how's that? How do we actually do that? I guess that's one of the questions inherent in this topic of 5 ways to build a strong and cohesive culture. Another one is customer centered. Customer centered, customer focused, and this is why cut when the organization is focused on the customers, or rather the management is like at the micro level, it goes down to the team member is how do they relate to the customer? That's going to have a relationship with how the organization relates to the customer, what the conversations look like, the questions that are asked, the statements that are made. Is there actually a focus on the customer? And that's tied to the first piece, which was the value of the product. Like what if the less valuable our product or service, the less we're actually focused on the customer? They could be intertwined. There's it's there are plenty of hollow businesses out there. And I think the relationship between the organization and the customer correlates to the valuelessness of the product or service. The value of the product or service will be inferred by the focal point, the focus on the customer. Like this goes back to responsibility versus accountability. On a team standpoint, responsibility is modeled, it's experienced, it's watched. Like our people see what we do more than what we say. They can conceptualize what we say, and it can help them learn and identify with and instantiate in their behavior. But below awareness, our people are going to be watching us and seeing if we're focused on the customers and seeing if we're not. What if we're in the positions of leadership? Like the responsibility is modeled, accountability is given in speech or taken in action. You're fired, I quit. Hey, this can be improve this, and this is how we do it here, and don't do that, and try this, and what about this, and how about this, and why is that? And it, accountability is a consequence of truthfulness. Responsibility, like with words and actions, responsibility is the embodiment of truth, and that embodiment of truth will be signified by the relationship between the company and the customers, the leadership and the customers, the focus on the customers. So the customer centered is the leading indicator, and the lagging indicator is the culture of responsibility, engagement, productivity, purpose. The purpose of the organization is rooted in the value of the product or service. And that influences the customer-centered orientation. It's very key to building a strong and cohesive culture. But yet we have to ask, and this I didn't articulate, but strong and cohesive, what is that? Like strong is mutual respect, rooted in competence and experience. Strong, strong and cohesive company culture. Strong culture is rooted in, competence and experience. There's an expectation of how we do things here and what we do, and people are capable and clear and experienced, and not only in an individual level in their knowledge, in their wisdom from past experience, failure, and success, but as a team, as a group, and it builds over time. There's a temporal component to strong culture, which is it's been a generation we've been working together. Now, all of this is strained in today's society as a consequence of more and more people having shorter and shorter tenures at the jobs and the careers they have. But the longer people actually work together and they do get along and they have experience and memories and there's meaning and there's competence, the faster things get done and the more depth to those things. Just like any, one percenter in sport, the more they play, the more the better they get, and the more intuitive it is, and the less they have to s- almost like it's less thinking, less strategy in real time. That's done off the court or off out of the game, and more be being and, being. It transcends time and space. It's like the best people at what they do. It's just so intuitive. I've observed this in myself, watching myself as I'm interviewing people. It's just doing, spending thousands of hours in preparation and the activity. It becomes, you become the act. You become the act more than you're enacting the act. The interview in that case, the questions and the curiosities. It's from the repetition. The repetition leads to it's a different paradigm that one is operating from. You see this with salespeople, with scripts when they haven't they don't actually know the questions. They don't actually know what they're doing. They're just reading the questions. It's not coming from experience and wisdom and repetition. So I've only done two, and I'm like out of time. Damn, this is like part one, I guess. Part one, ways to build a strong, cohesive culture. Invest in. So we have a valuable product or service. It's rooted in the product, which influences the focus, and the customer focus will model responsibility, which influences accountability, um, and the strength of the culture is going to be have a relationship with mutual respect, which is competence and experience meshed. Number three is invest in the customers. This is the marshmallow test. There was a study at some big school, they gave children, they told children, they put them in these rooms individually with marshmallow, don't eat the marshmallow. A percentage of the children didn't, a percentage of the children did, and they tracked their lives, and the ones that didn't, they were more successful. Why? Tolstoy's adage, the two most powerful forces are patience and time. What does that have to do with investing in the customers? There's only a certain amount of capital, and it can be taken out of the business or reinvested back in. And the judgment has to be made. Um, what's in the best interest of the future of the organization? The best interest of the future of the organization is the innovation around the customer value, customer experience, and how that will inevitably impact um, employees and shareholders and all stakeholders. So invest in the customers, continually reinvest, and have an awareness around your future self. If you're a leader, like an owner listening to this, your future self will pay for your present self's transgressions. Number four is is can't read my handwriting. That's amazing. It's that bad. It's like absolutely number four. Number five is vision and execution is equals respect. Have so we have to be thinking in the future, and thinking in the future actually helps us. If you're going to build a strong, cohesive company culture, people not only people need to know where you're going, you have to, if you're you have to know where you're going on an individual level. If you're the ownership, where are you going? Where it's actually helpful. It actually influences your current self to think in the future because being future oriented actually increases the likelihood of not of actually having values tested. Because how do you say no if you don't know what you're saying yes to? And what we're saying yes to has to do with what we want, which is temporal in nature, has a relationship with time, because we're wrapped up in the past, the future, and the present as individuals. It's constantly moving. They're the we're moving. It we're moving into time is passing, and we're like the future has a relation. It reflects potential, and potential is wrapped up in what we do. But what we do is a consequence of what we don't do. And how do we say no if we don't know what we're saying yes to? And the yes is a symptom of the projection of the future. You know, my vision is this. I want this. I desire this. I'm going there. I'm going there, so I'm not going to go there. If I don't have a there that I'm going, I could go anywhere. And that's, I'll be influenced at a greater capacity by the environment and less as in an individual sense or in an organizational sense. And this way, values kind of keep that the the bowling ball rolling towards the cones. The cones? Yeah, the cones, and away from the gutters. And without that aim, and with there, it's less likelihood of being in a straight line, because the nature is constantly pushing us, the gravity of life, to go towards the gutters. And it's our vision of the future and our ability to execute in the present and say no and say yes and decide and think and act and interact that keeps us straight to hit the cones and score and win. So the relationship between vision and execution that develops respect and competence and security, enough security to, and security has a relationship with truth. Do we tell the truth in this organization? That will have a relationship with security, the esteem, the confidence of the leadership, which then that impacts mutual trust, because you can't trust what you don't respect. There won't be trust if people don't respect, and people won't respect what isn't competent. And and there won't be competence if there isn't an aim and execution. And there, if there isn't an aim and execution, yeah, there won't be competence. And if there isn't competence, then it isn't real. It's not. It's less real. It's less authentic. And that impact that influences the back to the purpose of the organization, which is to improve the quality of the customer through products and services. And now the organization is unevenly about itself versus about who it serves, which will negatively impact the culture as a consequence of that, because human beings don't gain meaning out of living in deceit. I still don't know what the fourth one that I wrote down was, but I can tell you that cohesive. So, right. So the topic was 5 ways to build a strong and cohesive company culture. Cohesive is where there's trust. So it's more of like don't have triangulation. You know, person A and person B, they're at odds. So A goes to C, B goes to D. Now E and F know about person A and person B. Work it out amongst one another or go to superior, and that they help that situation. No agendas, no politics. It's like invert, always invert. How do you actually have cohesion? You have to have trust. So you have to tell the truth. You have to you have to get rid of the people that aren't capable of doing the job, and do it in a respectful way. So you want to do more of it. You don't want to avoid it if you're in a position of management. And you have to actually live up to the expectations you set for others. And you have to actually be forthright and um, be trusting. And that has a relationship with security, which has a relationship with competence, which has a relationship with an aim, which has a relationship with what one isn't doing, which has a relationship with character and values, which individually, when they're represented at scale, those are the core values of the company. and so on and so forth, and 5 ways to build a strong and cohesive culture, company culture. Those are 4 of the ways. When I figure out the one that I couldn't read, we'll do this again.